This is a clip from the Chris Break Show podcast.
Hey, fuckface. Wait, am I supposed to say that? I'm not quite sure anymore. This is the Chris Break Show. And I want to thank you for clicking through that Amazon link that we have there on the chrisbreakshow.com and buying stuff. Because you buying stuff in the name of the Chris Break Show really helps us out. Click on that motherfucker. You have no idea what it does for us. New things are happening. New things are happening on the horizon. Oh, man, I don't even have my ukulele in my hand. Let's use this out of tune one here. There's some things going on. John Rapp is not here because, well, that is his history. He tends to do that to people on a regular basis. But we will see what happens with this show because of that. I did not want to get into this at this exact moment, but I just sent a message to John because it's really starting to fucking piss me off. He's done this all his life, you know. But I mean, here's the changes. Are you ready? This once a week podcast that you've come to know is now going to be 5 days a week on IndianaTalks.com, which is a local Indiana radio station type situation, internet radio station. And John Rapp, who talked me into doing this podcast, now we will be hosting this new radio show starting June 9th, live, 2 hours a day for 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Is that amazing? I think it's amazing. But it'll be even more amazing if John Rapp shows up for at least 4 out of those 5 days. He should be showing up for 5 of them, and I myself would like to take a vacation. I would love to just fucking walk away and not have to be there for a few days, because I'm kind of afraid of commitment. When we agreed to do this, I started to get worried about what am I going to do? You know, like, first of all, what the hell am I going to talk about constantly for 2 hours a day for 5 days a week for infinity, you know, because who knows how long this thing is going to go. So that scares the shit out of me. But now as it's, you know, I'm always reminded, now I got to fucking deal with John Rapp not showing up half the time. So that's what's happening now. So because of that, in honor of John Rapp not showing up and in honor of us going live, which I'm gonna do something right now. I'm gonna give out the phone number to the show. Who knows what it'll be like? There's a lot of behind the scenes type stuff that needs to happen before this week when we start to go live. But we do have a phone number that you should be able to call in. It is a Google Voice number, so we might crash the thing if you guys actually do call in a whole bunch at the same time of views. So the number will be 317-883-9827. The Chris Break Show will be reached at 317-883-9827. Yep, that's what's going on, and I can't wait to hear from you if you do call. I imagine nobody will call, but that's fine with me. We're gonna have a fun time. Anyway, it's a political radio station, so we don't really get too political. So we'll see what actually happens with that. But what's happening today, you ask? Why are you listening to this? I will tell you why. It is because a long time ago, on I believe the 4th of March, the third month is March. So March 4th, 2014, we had interviewed Ricky Rat from the legendary Trash Brats. And I was not too familiar with them. I know that Rich Barker from the Melody Inn, which, you know, I forgot to tell you that every Saturday night is punk rock night at the Melody Inn in Indianapolis. Go there. Check it out. It is fun. When I do take the trip away from the house and people are in town and they say, where should we go? Where should we go? I always say, let's go to the Melody Inn, because it's the only bar that I have a good time every single time I go, and I'm not surrounded by dickheads. So we talked to Ricky Rat of the Trash Brats, and you know, I mean, honestly, the reason why we're just now putting this up is I wasn't really too happy with the interview. Nothing to do with Ricky Rat. That guy was fucking awesome, and he told some really, really good stories. I'll give you a background on him in a second. But I wasn't too happy with it because on that day, who was Randy Now was supposed to be on the show. And he was scheduled for, I think, 10 o'clock at night. And then apparently I found out right when John showed up, after I'd done all my research for Randy Now, I found out that John had scheduled Ricky Rat on the same fucking day. So I hadn't done any research on Ricky Rat. I did not know anything about him. And I just wasn't happy with the interview because I wasn't aware, I didn't know too much about him, other than that he was in a glam rock or glam punk type band in the 80s out of Detroit, Michigan, that is still known to this day. Like they were a really fucking big deal. I'm gonna play one of their songs in a second, just so you have an idea of who Ricky Rat is and who the Trash Brats are. He's solo now. I believe they broke up in, I think he said 2002, but he told some good stories about Gigi Allen and, I mean, just some crazy shit, man. The guy's out of wildlife. Skinheads. I'm fascinated with these skinheads because I don't see too much of them anymore now in the year 2014, but apparently there was just an insane amount of them at one point in the Midwest, and, well, I guess all over the United States. I kind of think of skinheads as, I mean, I guess they'd be a gang, but it's just people. I don't know, man. It's fucking psychopaths. I guess it's a gang, but just people with shaved heads. I don't know. Maybe you guys are older. Whoever's listening to this, maybe you're old enough to remember when skinheads used to walk around out in the open. And I think it was a style thing too. I think it was fashion. But now that for the people who don't remember that, God bless you. So let's do one of these real quick. All right, that's our theme music, which means we start the show. But, John Rapp's not here, so we're going to play this interview. And I think, I don't know, man, if John Rapp just starts showing up, I'm probably not going to do the fucking show anymore, because he's the person who started it. And, he started the momentum, and then when he flakes all the time, it really makes me not want to do it. It just pisses me off, and it really lets me down constantly. But I am going to do it for as long as I can. I'm going to keep going, and hopefully John figure something out. He said he was excited. He said he was excited that we were going 5 days a week, and that he's going to look forward to that routine. But I'll tell you right now, I'm not looking forward to the routine of John Rapp not showing up. I'm fucking sick and tired of it. But here's a song. I don't know. I have everything. I guess it's hard to explain what I'm doing here. But John's not here running any equipment, so I got some weird setup. But the song is going to begin right now.
Looking for bright lights after dark, watching desperate romantics in the park, making penny wishes where did they all go, making sure they never let their inside
That was pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. I'm really looking forward to playing this interview for you. I'm sorry that it took so long for it to finally come out in the light of day there. Excuse me. So here we go. We're going to call Ricky Rat and see what happens. All right, Ricky Rat. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm amazing. I love these little fake hellos because obviously I just said hello to you a second ago.
Yep, that's right. Exactly.
In case no one is aware, Ricky Rat is the co-founder of the legendary Detroit band, the Trash Brats, back in 1987. Dude, that is a long time.
Yeah, that is a long time ago now.
Did you know that you were going to get as much recognition as you did when you started doing the thing? Like, or did you just have hopes? Just a child having hopes and dreams?
A little both, I guess, because I think, a lot of people, when they start playing music, everyone thinks that, oh yeah, I'm great, or I'm cool, or I have something special, and I'm going to go far with this. But, yeah, I mean, especially the way our band was and with the way our image was and everything else, I think we kind of always knew things were stacked against us a bit, but we just kind of followed what we were into, rather than trying to be into trends or say we should be one way. It was all very natural that's the way we were. And
so you never made a decision to, like, because I know we've been in a band, and at one point there's just this moment when you realize, I don't think people like us, and I think maybe we need to try something else.
Well, yeah, and the thing is when we were starting, actually, me and Brian, the singer, we'd been friends since junior high, so early '80s, and we played in our first band together, kind of morphed into becoming the Trash Brats. So we'd been playing together a few years, and we were just strong on like kind of a glam punk kind of image, and we liked the idea of mixing like rock and roll with punk with glam, and some people didn't get it, and they saw our image, and it's the '80s, so we were always fighting that battle of people thinking, oh, look at these guys, they're Motley Crue, they're Poison, but when you heard us, it's like we didn't sound anything like that. There's a huge difference, and so we were fighting battles on all levels at first, but we felt we were good songwriters, and we had a good stage presence, put on a good show, and it slowly built up over a year or two in Detroit, and next thing you know, we were packing small clubs, and then we went up to the bigger clubs, and it just kept going for a while. So yeah, I guess we didn't get frustrated because we saw we were doing something right when all the people were coming out, and we had some pretty hardcore fans, and so I think if nothing was happening, we probably would have been like, that's when you question yourself and say, oh, maybe we should write some other kind of songs or change our image or whatever. And but people were reacting to it.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of hard work to get to that level of actually having fans and being able to tour. Like, you toured for what was it, 27 years, and
we always did it ourselves. We never had a major deal.
That's crazy.
We only had a manager for a short time. We only worked with one or two real small booking agents. So we were totally DIY punk rock in that sense that we would book these tours ourselves, get in the van, and this is the days pre-internet too. Like, kids have it easy now. I mean, you couldn't just send your promo stuff through the internet or, get shows that way. You could call and get people to return your call, then you have to send them a promo pack, and you have to wait for them to hear the promo pack, and it could take you weeks just to book one gig in one city.
Do you think it was easier back then because there was less saturation in the scene? Like not so many people like trying to contact via Facebook and all these. Just the barrage of.
In a way, yes. I mean, it's obviously cool that you can promote easier, but yeah, you're right. Now that it's easy for anyone. I hate to sound like a jerk and be critical, but now, yeah, people are rushing out there too quick to play and try to promote their bands or their music, and a lot of them, I think, are just not good, and they're not prepared for it yet. And the old days, it was almost like you were better off playing in a basement or a garage or whatever for a while and getting your shit together before you decided, like, we should take this public. But now, some kid could record a song in his bedroom, tonight and have it up, put a song up on the internet for the morning, and yeah, that's neat technology, but yeah, I mean, like you're saying, it's just oversaturation, and there's a lot of stuff for people to wade through, so I'd hate to be like an 18-year-old trying to start a rock band now. I think it'd be very difficult.
Yeah, it seems like it's harder, at least in Indianapolis, we also sucked, but it seems like it's hard to get to actually get a following, or I mean, it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of showing up, and maybe playing a lot of empty rooms, and just doing it and keeping your chin up. Like, what was the scene like in Detroit in the '80s?
Well, Detroit always had. I mean, even to this day, Detroit's got a lot going on, and we really learned to appreciate it once we start touring, and we'd come to cities like Indianapolis or Milwaukee or Cincinnati, and we'd go to these other cities and see that there was only like a couple like rock, punk, metal clubs, or whatever you want to call it. And back in Detroit, there's consistently always been just a ton of bars, a ton of different bands, a ton of different scenes, and I think that was really cool in the old days. But now, again, I think it's too much now. Too many bands, again, too many people trying to play, and I guess the bad thing about having the options of clubs and bands is it splits the scenes up, where you could go out on a Friday night in Detroit and there'll only be 20 people at one bar and there might be 10 at the next bar. Kind of like a lot of the cities now for live rock and roll music.
Yeah, there is a lot just going on everywhere. That's why I like that's why I like the Melody Inn, because it always seems like there's kind of a centralized scene there. You know, there's always going to be something good.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure everyone in town here is a little tired of it. I mean, I'm new to town, and I'm not as bored of it, say, as maybe someone's been doing it for a lot of years. But I like the fact that, like out-of-town bands can come in. Like, I had some friends from Detroit just in town last weekend that played punk rock night, and they got a great response, and they were totally impressed because, they knew they were unknown. It was the first time in the city, and they were really impressed with how cool Indianapolis people were, and that's a good compliment to the scene here. And that's something maybe people here don't see, because they're like, oh, yeah, punk rock, night Melody, and I've been doing that 10 years. I can see where, wherever you're like at, you kind of you get tired of it until you kind of step outside the box and you realize, okay, we do have some cool stuff happening here.
Did you just play a solo show there at the Melody Inn?
Yeah, actually, 2 weeks prior, my solo band played there with a,
how is that going? How is that going from like a band that everyone loves and respects, and knows, and then just do you try and make a different sound, or are you hesitant to even start it? Because this is the first one that you've actually done on your own, right?
Yeah, I mean, for years the band broke up in 2002, and I needed some time just to air out. It was almost like getting out of a bad relationship. Like, it just went so many years, and then it failed, and you're brokenhearted and you're worn out. So first, I wasn't even thinking of solo stuff, and I was touring, a few other people, and I was still kind of getting around. And finally, I had some songs I wanted to get together, and then I had a bad relationship breakup, and that was kind of like the inspirational thing where I was writing these songs. And then I thought, well, if I put these out, it'll be cool, but I'm not really planning a solo career. And this label from Italy stepped up, and they wanted to do the album, and then a few people asked about shows, and just like that, I was like thrown into the position of being, I got to go play these live now and be a front guy now and play guitar and sing, as opposed to being a guitar player like Elvis for all years. So I'm only a few years into it, so I'm very new.
You said from
like solo band.
You said from the Middle East?
What's that?
Did you say the label is in the Middle East?
No, from Italy.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Middle East.
Well, Middle East, that would be pretty wild.
Yeah, I was like, that's strange that he's outsourcing his label to the Middle East. Italy. So do you have I know you tour Europe a lot, or you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why Italy? Like, did they contact you, or did they got the Trash Brats pretty big over there?
Yeah, Trash Brats are pretty well known, across the world. We've always had a lot of fans in places like, Italy and Germany and places like that. And I've been doing a lot of touring in Europe for, 10 or more years with this guy, Kevin Kay, who's an old friend of the Trash Brats from New York City. And so I've been playing with him. The other guys in the band are French guys, and, we tour a lot, and Kevin's gotten to be pretty well known there. So by playing with Kevin, I've gotten to, people have gotten to know me through Kevin, plus some people know me through Trash Brats. So it just kind of opens things up. And then, just talking to a few people I knew in Italy, and that are big fans of Trash Brats music. And then they were like, we'd love to do your solo album. And it was great that for my very first solo album, I didn't even have to really, go out and fight a battle for it.
Why'd you guys break up?
When or why?
Why? 2002.
Yeah, 2002. Well, let's see. At that point, it was 15 years, and it was just slowly crumbling. I think that the last maybe 3 or 4 years of the band, it was a bad dysfunctional relationship. Kind of like when people keep hanging on to each other, and you know it's horrible, but you feel like, well, if I leave, where am I going to go? That was a lot of it, I think, because I know I was done with it. I think years before it was, it was over, and yeah, I mean, we were just running out of steam because for years we had a great crowd, especially in Detroit, and when some of our crowd would maybe move on, we'd get like the newer next generation crowd, but finally, like by 2000 or so, it was like our crowd had dwindled a lot. People didn't seem to care anymore. And we're like, it's one of those things where you don't want to keep going, where you just become a joke. And we thought, wow, 15 years is a good run. And especially by today's standards, most kids get a band together and they don't last 1 year.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, because you guys do the glam rock thing. You're talking about it like not being a joke. Like, how do you feel? Did you still do that in 2002 when you were touring and your crowd was dwindling? Would you show up like all glammed out in dresses and makeup and stuff?
Yeah, well,
no
it's
one's
just,
there.
that's kind of how we are, which always sounds cliche when people say it, but I mean, we've always just been like that. Like, I've had long hair since I was a little kid. I was a huge Kiss fan and Alice Cooper and all that when I was a kid. So my first impression of rock and roll was you go up there and you put on a show. And yeah, I mean, we went through some bad eras to be a band dressed up. I mean, the 90s was dominated by grunge and alternative music and white boy funk bands, and you got these guys with crazy hair and makeup and tights and stuff. So it was pretty shocking still, because it was like, some people act like, oh, well, you guys are behind the times, but it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Hop on a trend? That would be worse. I mean, we were watching bands left and right hop different trends to try to make it. I'm like, to me, that's a bigger joke.
Do you ever get threatened when you're doing that? Like, I mean, because I know when I had a mohawk, people would just scream at me and call me a faggot. Like, did you ever?
We used to. Oh yeah, I mean, we could go on all night about that, especially in the earlier days. I mean, we used to get in fights all the time because we were like too glam for like the punk scene, which we mostly played in, and in the glam metal or the metal scene, we were too punk or we were too faggoty. So it wasn't like some people might think, like they see a picture of us and go, oh yeah, you guys were probably big in the 80s because of the big hair or whatever. But it's like, well, no, because if you listen to us, we sound like the Ramones and stuff like that. And so the glam metal people didn't get it. So they fucking hated us. Then you put us in front of a punk crowd. I mean, especially those days with a lot of skinheads and stuff. They took one look at us and fucking hated us. So yeah, we were in fights constantly.
I mean, do you ever get beat up? Like, does that ever happen? I mean, how many of you were there? Were there 4?
Yeah. I mean, well, one time I got jumped. There was this old bar in Detroit, a classic old punk bar called Bookies, and I was just hanging out there one night actually with friends, and a lot of these skinheads started showing up, and we were getting kind of nervous. And I went outside. I was calling my girlfriend on the payphone. That shows you how long ago this is, calling on a payphone. And I was outside, and I'm on the phone with her, and I see 1 or 2 of these guys come out into the lot, and I'm like, to my girlfriend, I better go now. I better get back in the bar. And I hang up the phone, and next thing you know, like 10 of these skinheads surrounded me. And they just started with the whole, like, oh, nice earrings. My sister has those earrings, nice hair. And finally one of the guys, like, went to kind of touch me. So I punched them, and they jumped me. And a couple of them pulled out straight razors. Like, in those days, a lot of the skinheads used to carry straight razors.
That was in America?
Boots. Yeah, this was in Detroit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they pull out the straight razors. What they do is they put them, like, between their fingers, and they just start slapping.
Fuck.
So I got sliced up all over.
Jesus.
And it's one of those things. It's one of those things where it felt like it went on for an hour, but it was probably like literally 2 minutes. And then some people came by and yelled, and they jumped off me, and I was my shirt was literally like ripped off me, like there was slices in the shirt and blood, and and that's just one of the incidents. But I mean, we have videos where it's I mean, when you see old videos of like the Sex Pistols and bands getting hit with shit, we have videos of stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff we used to go through a lot.
Aren't you playing with one of the guys from the Sex Pistols coming up?
Like, yeah.
And the Trash Brats.
Brian,
you guys are kind of reuniting a little.
Well, for that show, we're playing acoustic, just the two of us, because it's Glenn Matlock from the Sex Pistols and Sylvain from the New York Dolls, and they're both playing acoustic. So that's why we're doing a support slot acoustic. But then we do have an electric full-on Trash Brats reunion show April 12th back home in Detroit. So we've done a few of those over the last few years, and they've been going really good. So we figured we keep doing some as long as people are having fun and we don't wear that idea out.
Where do you have the biggest? Where do you get the most love? You know, like is it? I mean, well, outside of Detroit, like what? Because you said that sometimes people you'd show up and it started dwindling. But what are some of the places where just people are just stoked?
Well, you know, actually years ago, Trash Brats used to do great in Indianapolis. We used to play here with Sloppy Seconds quite a bit, and we did good in like the Midwest, maybe because we played here so much because we were, you know, near to the Midwest that we could go out on these weekends, and we could do well in these weird places like Evansville, Indiana, and Bloomington, and we always did really good in Cincinnati, and did good in LA, did good in New York, the coasts. And in Europe, people get this kind of music in Europe. That's why, you know, I'm touring and playing over there more than I am here, because this old style of like kind of glam punk rock and roll, whatever you want to call it, people over there seem to dig it more than people here.
That's fucking cool, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's why like a lot of the old timers play over there more than they do here. And you know, it's funny that some of us few were like the old timers, so we kind of are now. You know, I'm in my 40s, so a lot of like these younger kids that come out, they really don't get this kind of music. I think a lot of this is foreign to them, you know.
Yeah, Reverend Payton goes to Europe quite a bit and tours over there.
I bet, and I bet they do great.
Yeah, now that's foreign to me, you know. Like,
yeah.
You know, we had yeah. Go ahead.
Well, you know, Europeans are very dedicated too. Like, they don't forget about you. You know, they don't seem to like hop trends or lose track of you as quickly as people in the States who are, you know, 1 second into something and then they're into something else. Europe, you could play there. Like the Trash Brats only played in Europe one time. We played one small tour of Germany. And that one time we played Germany, it just like we got so much attention from that one little tour. It was amazing.
You play Russia at all?
Never played Russia, but with Kevin K, we made it to Poland, though. We actually played Poland. And part of my background is Polish, so it was kind of cool to go to the homeland. So that was a very interesting place to play, for sure.
All right, we actually took to the internet to get some questions to ask you to see if any fans had any questions. But actually, I think it's mainly friends here.
Yeah, okay.
We got one from Wayne Birch, but I think I already asked it. Tell us about the early days of the Detroit garage punk scene.
Yeah. Geez, I mean, you know, the era we were coming up in the late 80s, there was a lot of stuff going on, and there was a good, strong punk scene there at that time, which I think phased out more into the 90s, you know, like a lot of cities when the alternative and grunge came in. But, I mean, Detroit's always been a good focal point, I think, for a lot of bands. I mean, by living there, being in that scene, you get exposed to a lot of good stuff because there was always great bands touring through and whatnot. And now for this kind of music, it's not as big there. You know, there's not as much like punk rock and roll there. There's a ton of bands that's more like the awkwardy kind of hipster, quirky, you know, just different kinds of stuff, but not really like straightforward like punk rock and roll, you know.
I've never been to Detroit, man. Is it falling apart like they say?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a mess for a while, but it's funny how just because the media start reporting it more, people think it just happened in the last 5 years. But I mean, it's been a mess for like a long time. I mean, basically almost my whole life growing up, it's been pretty bad. But it's just because recently the media really put it out there. People are like, oh my God, look at all those vacant buildings and look at this and look at that. And we're all of a sudden from Detroit are like, well, yeah, that's how it's been.
Yeah, it seems like you get harder music. It seems like harder music comes out of harder cities like that.
Well, yeah, you know, and you get that work ethic. Like, that's what I've noticed being down here in Indianapolis is that it's not that there's not good musicians here, but it seems like a lot of the bands just don't take themselves seriously. I mean, I was telling that to my girlfriend a few times where you know, we'd be at the Melody seeing some bands or whatever, and I'm just like, you know, a lot of bands just don't approach it like Detroiters do with this real, like, you know, take the stage ready to kill kind of, you know, and real professional and real over the top. And then players here are almost like more jokey and more kid around, like it's a hobby band.
Well, can we?
But a lot of Detroit musicians are just more, I think, serious because it's kind of like, I don't want to just stay here in Detroit. I want to get out into the world.
Well, what can we do to make Indianapolis like that? Like, we want Indianapolis to be the best fucking city there is for punk music or any music, really. Just like, what is it that people could do? Just, stop fucking around, get your ass up, and
that's a
just
really
be
good
dedicated.
question.
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, it's a really good question, but that really comes down to the people themselves. And I think, again, a lot of the people in Detroit got it's ingrained in them because it's a tough scene. And I think that people they get into it and they really want to play. Then they see there's all these other good bands that they know they have to kind of work harder. And I think some of the musicians here maybe just don't they don't envision themselves really, getting a big deal or touring or doing anything. So it's almost like, okay, I won't quit my day job and I'll just play a couple gigs here and there and just be kind of lax about it, I guess. In Detroit, there's a real solid, work ethic to it that, because it's such a blue-collar working-class town that it's weird. It's almost like in people's blood that you have to bust a lot of ass to get ahead. And here, it's such a nice city, and people are nice, and it's real safe and clean. And I like living here because it's real mellow. But it also gets I feel like it can get complacent really quick because I don't know. There's not an edge here like there is in a city like Detroit.
Well, you like something about it. What made you move here?
Well, my girlfriend. So, love will do that to you. And I always had a good time. Playing here and had some friends here. I can't count the number of times the Trash Brats played here. We played here a lot of times. So I had been coming down here since basically since we started, 1987 or 88 was the first time we played here. So I was familiar with the city, but I never thought I'd live down here. And just the way the situation was, it seemed better for me to come up here, or down here, I should say, rather than her move to Detroit for the time being. So I ended up here, and it's kind of just right as my solo stuff was coming together. And, we live in a day and age where you don't really have to live in one city because you can communicate with the internet and you travel and tour a lot. So I felt like it didn't really matter where I was based right now because it's not like I need to be back in Detroit playing a gig every week or something. I've played more than enough shows there my whole life, So if I only play one show there a year now, I'm fine with that.
All right, Jessica wants to know about the concept of the song Glitter People.
Well, the concept of that song is basically how a lot of the really good trailblazers, which everybody knows some people that are just out there more than other people. They're the ones that they're the stars, but then they're the ones that get ripped off by everybody and get left in the dust, basically. So, it's just kind of like in music how there's a lot of people that get known for a certain style or sound, and they were really just ripping off someone else that was maybe more underground. And, that was that person underground that was really the one that came up with that stuff. And it's also kind of like a dedication to a lot of lost friends, musical friends that I've known that were, I felt should have been bigger stars, and they really were trailblazers, and they kind of, just got left behind, so to speak.
She also wants to know what exactly is your plan with your career since you moved to Indianapolis? And I want to know, what is your career? Are you doing mainly music now? You got another job, or are you just sticking to the touring?
Well, it's that thing where when you're a musician and you tour a lot and you play a lot, it's hard to keep a regular, another full-time job because you can't just keep, splitting. So I've always had to have these weird oddball jobs because obviously, let's be honest here, the music doesn't pay all the bills, and, and I've had a pretty good career where I've made, more money and done better than some, but obviously not enough as others. So yeah, it's always this tricky thing. I've balanced this my whole life where I'd have some sort of job or part-time job where I can kind of pay bills and I can still go on tour, come back, just and keep going. And that's really, it's weird because I on one end, I can't see myself staying in Indianapolis, but I'm in no hurry to go back to Detroit. And I think I'm just trying to see where the whole solo career is going now, because I've only been doing this for a couple of years. The one single in my debut album, and now I got my new single coming out. So it's still new. I'm still treading the waters kind of. And obviously I've picked up a lot of, fan base from the Trash Brat days and stuff like that, which is nice. But, I'm hoping to bring on all new people. So I guess, there's no one straight answer to that other than just trying to keep moving forward. And again, I can't see myself really staying here, even though it is a nice place to live for right now.
All right, I have one other question from the Facebook crew, but I want to ask, just for a story, what's like the craziest fucking thing that's ever happened, or the craziest fucking thing you've ever seen while you were playing, or life or death, anything, just...
Jeez. That is really hard to say. I mean, oh man,
you've been around a long time. You played a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, because you could sit there and just start telling stories like getting to see someone like Gigi Allen perform, even, which has nothing to do with being a player, but just being from that era, that you get to experience people like that and shows like that, like. When it was dangerous to be at a show, if you had long hair and you were at a punk show up front at a Black Flag show, you could get killed. Right. I mean, it really was like that. Like, it's weird to tell people in their 20s or 30s that that's how it was, but it was just rougher in general, and especially in a city like Detroit. And so, I mean, there's obviously all these stories, but I guess one good one that we always tell people, and we have video to go with it, was the one we did a show opening for Kid Rock in Detroit. This is before he was, big everywhere else, and before he was kind of like the country guy. This is when he was full on.
Oh yeah, because I forgot that he's from Detroit.
Yeah, and so this is when he was just a rapper. He didn't have the long hair. He wasn't pushing the rock thing. He was just a white rapper. So his crowd was white rappers. It wasn't like whatever country classic rock people. And we opened for him in this place that holds like 1,200 people, and it was sold out. And that crowd just wanted to kill us. And we have it all on video. So that's always a good story to tell people, because when you watch the video, you can see us fighting with the crowd and the beer bottles flying, us jumping off, going to the barricade, punching kids. And in between, you could just hear them yelling, "Faggot, I want to kill you." And we're just like fucking with them. And that's, that's a good moment, because, you tell people later, about it, and they're like, "Wait a minute, you played with Kid Rock?" And we're like, "Yeah." And it was even weirder because he wasn't even like a long-haired rock guy yet. He was just a rapper.
So you're at a hip-hop show.
Totally. Now, if we went and played with Kid Rock, well, we still might get killed, but at least it'd be like kind of some long hair, classic rock people, yay, whatever. But this was all like the backward baseball cap wearing, grab your crotch, white kid rapper types. And they took one look at us with our makeup and hair. They just started spitting and throwing shit, and we started spitting and throwing shit back. So, I mean, that's a pretty good one. I mean, that was a long time ago now, too. We're talking like that was like 1995. That's how long ago that show was.
How'd you get that show? Like, why were you on that show?
Well, the thing is, it's like, we're friends with Kid Rock, and he was almost just starting. That's right around the beginning when he was starting to kind of get more like a band with him. So we knew a lot of people that were involved with him, and I'm not a fan of his music necessarily, but I find myself sticking up for him in circles, because people start making fun of him and stuff. And usually I'm always very defensive of, all my people from Detroit. And the one thing I give him is I tell people, I go, you don't realize how much hard work that guy did do to get where he's at. You could still laugh at him and think he's a joke or don't like his music, but I mean, he busted some serious ass to keep going, and I have nothing but respect for that.
Yeah, he was pretty hardcore back then.
Yeah, I mean, he started, a lot of people don't know this. He started in like 1990, but people envision him just like from the last 10 years,
coming out of nowhere.
Right, when his hits started, basically, which the rest of the world found out about him, but he was selling out, 1,000, 2,000 seat places in Detroit back in the early 90s. Just like ICP. I mean, so there was a lot of guys there that, like, they weren't just handed this, like a label came up and gave them money. These were guys that were, like, literally, like, selling cassettes out of the back of their car and going around passing out flyers to people and just busting ass. And again, it's kind of that Detroit work ethic again. And so, I have a lot of respect for those kind of people. And but anyways, yeah. So he asked us to play. He wanted us to play, and we thought, well, maybe some of the crowd won't like us, but hey, maybe we'll win over some new young kids, right? It's like, no, about 80% of the crowd wanted to kill us.
Dude, you mentioned Gigi Allen. What was that like? I've never been a huge fan of Gigi Allen, except for that country album, The Carnival Excess. That was fucking amazing. But like,
that's who his most songs. Yeah.
What was that like seeing him? Like that sounds like something I'd be afraid just to even. I don't even know if I'd want to go to that, you know?
Well, the funny thing is, too, the first time I seen him, because I've seen him a few times, the Trash Brats were supposed to be one of the support bands. And we actually canceled because we were scared. And it was funny that I admitted that to Merle, Gigi's brother, because years later, the Trash Brats did a bunch of shows with the Murder Junkies. So I got to meet Merle, and, you know, Merle's a great guy, and I'm like, oh, I got to tell you something. I'm almost embarrassed to say it now, but, you know, we were supposed to open for your brother once in Detroit, and we were too scared, so we backed off the bill. And he got a laugh out of that, and he was like, no, man, he goes, my brother would love you guys, you know, and but, so, of course, we still went to the show, and the show was complete mayhem. I mean, it was Gigi pretty much at his worst, where he comes out and the band's just making a bunch of noise, and he starts screaming at the crowd, you know, and obviously taking X-Lax or something, because when he shit, it was just like this big runny puddle.
Yeah, this
and
guy would fucking, to anyone who doesn't know who Gigi Allen is, this guy would come out on stage and shit. You know, he was pretty much like any modern day member of Jackass, but he happened to call himself a band.
Well, you know, and it's just like, you know, when you see that in person, and you're looking from the back of a packed bar, and you're thinking, is he really shitting? And then you get the downwind smell, and you're like, oh my God, you know, this isn't some gimmick. It's like, and he rubs it all over himself and starts running through the crowd.
That's
so then you got people knocking over each other, and you know, total mayhem,
fucking riot, stampede to get the fuck away from the guy that they came there to see.
I know, and then it turned, and on this particular night, it turned into a standoff between him and the skinheads, because he would get back on the stage. The crowd would kind of go forward again. All the skinheads would get up real close to him and just be like, fuck you, wanted to kill him, but none of them wanted to touch him. So in a way, it was like a smart move. We were kind of laughing. We're like, this is great. He's totally taunting them. They want to kill him, but not one of them will put their hand on him. So they'd be up front taunting him, and he would just take one little jump off the stage, and they would run like little girls. All the skinheads would start knocking people over. But finally, I don't know what started it. Someone was the ballsy one that tackled Gigi first. So somebody really got covered in it. And once it went down, then there was like 20 people on top of him trying to kill him, kicking, yelling at him. And that's when it got chaotic, and people were running out of the bar. Were like, you know, let's get out of here.
But they came there to see him. Like, this is the lead singer of the band. Are they not aware? Did he not have that reputation beforehand?
Well, I think that's you know, it's not like I knew Gigi personally, but I think that was part of his thing. It was almost like he felt these people were fucked up, because, like, kind of like, why are you here then? You know? And, I mean, you know, I like a lot of his earlier stuff, like with his band, The Jabbers, and, you know, he had some good songs before it just seemed like it was just getting just out of control. Like, he was really fucked up on drugs and everything else. And, so, yeah, these shows become more like these spectacles, but it's, you know, I mean, I could even imagine, I mean, punk shows now aren't even barely punk shows. Can you imagine someone like Gigi Allen on a Warped Tour? I mean, I think those kids see Rancid and they think that's crazy, you know? I mean, if they had to deal with, like, you know, they had to deal with, like, Stim Gators or, you know, fucking Gigi Allen or any, you know, these older dudes. I mean, these kids wouldn't even know what to think of it.
Yeah. If they had to deal with it, you know, it's not even like, you know, it's like, oh no, if they get to see him. No, they have to deal with it. It's something that fucking is going to happen in front of you, whether you want it to or not. You gotta fight or flight.
Well, you know, it's weird too, because when you're going through all those days at the time, I mean, you realize some of it's like kind of like, all right, something's happening here, but, you know, I guess I always thought, like, there was going to be a lot of cool shows and crazy shows, and the punk shows, everything would always be really cool. And I guess I had no clue that it would just kind of, I don't know, like, things have just faded out and gotten so tame. And, you know, not saying you should shit on yourself and go on stage, but it just seems like things are, again, so just, I don't know, kind of dull and lifeless more these days, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I did hear, I knew a guy named Storyteller Matt who always obviously told crazy stories, and he did tell me something about some guy named Crazy White Sean, who I think he opened up for. Do you know this guy?
No, but I like the name.
Yeah, I guess he opened up for Guar or something, and it sounds pretty much like Gigi Allen. This guy was like a freak show act, but he basically was a Gigi Allen type motherfucker who called himself a freak show act, and he was Vietnamese and had pink hair and called himself Crazy White Sean, and he would like do things like shit. From what I heard, he would, like, you know, basically like shit on stage and like pull out like a condom out of his ass. You know, like this guy's been having a condom in his ass the whole time he's on stage and spit, and he'd eat it and then spit it onto the audience, and you know. So I think there are some crazy bastards still doing this.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I think that people like D.G. Allen, I think, you know, even though that's pretty over the top, I think people in Detroit especially took to something like that because Detroit's always been about high energy stuff, you know. And again, I think that's part of the whole legacy where the Trash Brats fit in too, is because it's high energy music and it's high energy stage show. Because when you start thinking about people that are from Detroit that, you know, are crazy shows and stuff, you know, yeah, you got everyone from the Kid Rocks and the ICPs to Alice Cooper. I mean, there's all these people that, you know, Detroit, I think, has always expected a show. Like, they wanted a little more, you know?
I think Storyteller Matt was from Michigan, so it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense now.
It would almost make sense, right?
All right. I have one last question here,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't even know if it's a question. I don't even know what the hell it means, but I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it with this, and maybe you can shine light on this. And Sheila Pry, Cranny is laughing his ass off at the pizza boy.
Yeah. She wrote me and said, like, yeah, what the hell, this guy from some radio show got in touch with me. It's, you can imagine it's inside jokes. It's Sheila's sister of a dear old friend of the band, Cranford Nix, who is a fantastic songwriter, crazy funny person who's, you know, he's been gone from us for many years now, and he's actually another one of the people that's definitely influenced the song Glitter People. You know, there's I think kind of an ode to him too, because he was a very it's kind of like an underground legend now. It's funny, like some people are discovering his music now, and they're getting into him, which I think he would find funny as well. But so yeah, but just kind of some inside jokes there about that.
All right, man. Thank you for talking to us. We really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. It's been fun.
It usually is, and thanks to you in this moment here. What do you have a whoa, hold on, is it under control? Okay, do you have a website specifically that you want us to send people to?
Yeah, you know, I'm not pro enough yet to have my own, like, RickyRat.com, so probably just the Ricky Rat Facebook music page, because I have a personal one and then I have the music one. So probably the music one, which I don't know the link offhand.
So check out Ricky Rat's Facebook for upcoming shows.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, sir. Ricky Rat. That was pretty good. I like that guy. I like talking to him. I actually liked listening to it again because I had not heard it since we actually talked to him. So that was pretty fun. Wait, what did I say? Oh yeah, the schedule. The new format change is happening on June 9th, and you'll be able to catch the Chris Break Show, hosted by myself and Mr. John Rapp, on June 9th, starting 7 to 9 p.m. on Indiana Talks. I believe you can check them out on TuneIn app, as well as their website. They have all sorts of ways to listen. I don't know. I think we're going to also be still uploading it as a podcast. You know, we're going to try and record it and upload it at the same time. We hope to have a lot more guests. It seems like things were a little more constricted when we were doing the 1 day a week because we kind of had to limit, you know, like what, you know, we had to schedule. And sometimes we had more guests than we had show. And I guarantee that's never going to happen again. Like, that's the reason why this Ricky Rat episode is just now coming out, is because we had more guests than we had a show. So, we're going to interview some crazy bastards. I have a list of people we're going to interview. We got an interview set up with Tim DeLaughter, or is it DeLaughter? Who knows? From Tripping Daisy and the Polyphonic Spree. We'll be talking to him soon. But we're not going to stop this. You know, no matter how crazy I sounded, this thing's not going to stop. I just hope John stops being a fucking douche. You know, but other than that, he's still my friend. And thank you, John, for doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff you do, as well as behind-the-scenes fucking not showing up. Yeah, I guess my advice to you, John, is get over whatever illness you're getting over and get your head out of your ass, because there's other people kind of dependent on you now. So let's thank Darren at Indian Tune and the 405 Media here, and Knucklehead Nick. He's the best, or at least he tries to be. And my sister, Dr. Pong Fong, Jake Ginther, people who've actually been listening to us. That's pretty awesome, because now you're going to get a hell of a lot more of us. Every Saturday night is the punk rock night at the Melody Inn in Indianapolis. Thank you, Rich Barker. Who am I forgetting? I'm always forgetting someone. Well, thank you, Maya. That's enough.
From the Chris Break Show podcast.